In the soft light of a recent interview room, Kurt Russell sat there, silver hair gently brushing his shoulders, a thick beard, and eyes so deep they seemed to hold 6 decades of cinematic history behind them. No noise, no performance, no attempt to impress. Yet with just one glance, you immediately understand this is not an ordinary man. This is someone who has lived many lives through every role, every stumble, every silent moment behind the curtain. But here's the strange thing. In a Hollywood overflowing with stars who flare brightly and then disappear, why has Kurt Russell, a former Disney kid, a halted baseball hopeful, an action icon who never won an Oscar, managed to outlast even the most celebrated legends? What makes him someone directors and audiences trust without hesitation? And behind that rugged, quiet exterior, what hidden corners remain unseen by the world? The story of Kurt Russell isn't just the journey of an actor. It is the answer to a paradox. How can a man so understated become such a monumental figure? And to uncover that secret, we have to trace our way back to where it all began, the childhood of a boy born in 1951, in a family where light and shadow always walked side by side. Kurt Vogel Russell was born on March 17, 1951, in Springfield, Massachusetts, in a small home where laughter, the scent of the stage, and music existed like air itself. His father, Bing Russell, was an actor who appeared in westerns. His mother, Louise Julia, was a dancer. Kurt didn't grow up surrounded by ordinary childhood toys, but by half-printed scripts and stage costumes still carrying traces of powder. From a very young age, Kurt learned a lesson most children never face. Stage lights may look beautiful, but behind them are worries people must swallow quietly. He watched his father persist through supporting roles, coming home late, sometimes bringing the weight of exhaustion to the dinner table. And it was that image that planted in Kurt a quiet kind of strength, the kind that doesn't boast, but endures. Though he grew up in an artistic environment, he never became arrogant. Instead, Kurt always kept a certain distance between himself and the showbiz world. He wasn't swept up by illusions of glory, nor did he dream of becoming a child star. What fascinated him wasn't the spotlight. It was people. How they thought, how they hid sadness behind a smile, how they rose again after failure. Those early years built the foundation for the Kurt Russell the world would later know. An actor who observes, who listens, who speaks little but understands deeply. A man who, from childhood, learned to distinguish what is real from what is performance, and more importantly, what is worth fighting for throughout a lifetime. That quiet, unshowy childhood became the root that helped Kurt Russell endure in a Hollywood that constantly shifts, and the key to understanding why he never lived like a star, but like a man seeking the truest version of himself. Kurt Russell didn't enter Hollywood with a dream, but with a strange kind of natural ease, as if destiny had gently placed him exactly where he belonged. At just 10 years old, Kurt appeared in Disney television programs, not because his parents pushed him toward fame, but because he had something the camera loved, a calmness and honesty in his eyes. He didn't act to earn praise. He acted as if he were observing the world, trying to understand it a little better. Directors often said that young Russell had the instincts of an adult, something precious, yet puzzling. Why would a child have such depth in his gaze? But the most remarkable thing was that Kurt never let early recognition throw him off balance. He approached the set the way others approached a classroom, absorbing everything, how adults manage stress, how they endured long, exhausting days, how a scene could be repeated 10 times just to capture truth in every frame. Those lessons not fame, were what truly shaped him. Behind the smiles on Disney screens, Kurt began building an unusual philosophy of life. Hard work matters more than glory, persistence matters more than fame, and discipline matters more than any compliment. It was this attitude that helped Kurt Russell survive the treacherous stage where many child stars collapse. As his teenage years passed, he didn't lose himself. He grew into a respected young actor, someone who could stand in the middle of Hollywood and still protect the original, unpolished core of his spirit. The artistic flame in Kurt didn't blaze wildly. It burned quietly, steadily, and without ever going out. And it was that enduring fire that would carry him into turning points no one could have predicted in the years to come. As the late 1970s and early 1980s arrived, the film world was undergoing a dramatic shift. The era of flawless heroes was fading, and Hollywood began searching for faces with more depth. Characters who fought not only with muscle, but with loneliness, contradictions, and wounds too quiet to name. And at that exact moment, Kurt Russell emerged with a kind of aura entirely his own. Quiet, powerful, and unlike anyone else. His turning point came when he collaborated with director John Carpenter. A creative partnership, later remembered as one of the most iconic duos in American cinema. With Carpenter, Kurt wasn't just an actor. He became the embodiment of rebellious ideas, of characters living on the thin line between light and shadow. His role as Snake Plissken in Escape from New York, 1981, marked the moment Kurt Russell transformed from a promising young actor into a cultural icon. Plissken spoke little, followed only his own rules, wore a cold expression, and carried in his eyes a weight of unspoken history. A kind of character that didn't exist before that era. Audiences didn't see him as just a hero. They saw him as a living legend. And the most important thing, Kurt didn't play Snake Plissken. He became Snake Plissken. Then came The Thing, 1982, where he played MacReady, a man trapped in a world of fear and mistrust. In this sci-fi horror masterpiece, Kurt didn't need explosive emotions. He only had to stand there, watchful eyes sharp with suspicion, and viewers felt a chill run down their spine. MacReady was the kind of hero audiences trusted because they sensed he could collapse at any moment. And that fragility was exactly what made him real and haunting. His peak continued with Big Trouble in Little China, 1986, where Kurt Russell created Jack Burton, a hero who wasn't really a hero. A chaotic, funny, slightly foolish truck driver, yet full of heart and grit. This wasn't just acting. It was the ability to break his own established image and be reborn as something entirely different. All these roles shared one thing. They built the very image of Kurt Russell. A layered hero, strong in silence, humorous in his nonchalance, and always carrying a quiet loneliness he never voiced. His aura didn't come from awards. Hollywood didn't hand him many golden statues. It came from endurance, authenticity, and from something rare. He consistently chose roles that no one else could replace. And that is the mechanism by which legends are made. When a character becomes inseparable from the actor who embodies it. At that time, Kurt Russell wasn't just at the peak of his career. He was creating a peak of his own, one firmly rooted in American pop culture history, a place no one could step into without being compared to him. Behind Kurt Russell's rugged, unshakable exterior, his private life was a journey marked by far more scrapes and wounds than the world ever realized. Just as his career was finding its footing, Kurt entered his first marriage with actress Susan Hubley. They had a son together, a joy that seemed, for a moment, strong enough to anchor two people to the same shore. But Hollywood is never gentle with families, especially young ones. Long shooting days, endless travel, roles that demanded emotional extremes. All of it pulled Kurt into a gravitational force he couldn't step out of. The marriage fell apart, not because of betrayal, but because both of them simply ran out of strength. In those years, Kurt faced a question that strong men rarely dare to confront. How do you hold a family together when you yourself have not yet found solid ground? Those fractures in his spirit followed him like a shadow, making him doubt even his own ability to love. And then, destiny brought Goldie Hawn into his life, the woman who didn't just change his path, but helped him understand what a grown, healed relationship truly looks like. Goldie had also known heartbreak, disappointment, and the feeling that marriage was not the only road worth walking. They recognized each other through shared wounds, connected through understanding rather than illusion. The most unusual thing about their love story is this: though they have been together for more than 4 decades, they never married. Not out of fear of commitment, but because they both understood that a piece of paper cannot speak for the heart. They chose to love like people who had survived many storms, slowly, respectfully, and without ever trying to own one another. But beneath that warmth of family life lay another silent tragedy. Kurtrussell once carried the dream of a baseball career, a dream that an unexpected injury stole from him while he was still young. He later admitted that the physical pain never hurt as much as the feeling of losing an entire life that should have been mine. It was a quiet, lingering grief, invisible to others yet shaping the way he lived, always cautious, always keeping a part of himself locked away from the world. Amid Hollywood's bright lights, Kurtrussell learned to balance work with personal life, a battle far more delicate than any adventure role he ever played. And within that quiet storm, he found what many actors never do: a real family, a real love, and a place where his heart could finally rest after all the long journeys. There was a period in Kurtrussell's career that many viewers don't even realize happened, a time when he almost vanished completely from the screen. No scandal, no announcement of retirement, no explanation, just silence. Hollywood was changing at breakneck speed. The late 1990s into the 2000s ushered in the era of CGI, the era of superheroes, the era when the cold-edged heroes of the Carpenter generation suddenly became outdated. And Kurtrussell, an icon of his time, stood before the hardest choice of his career: chase the new era or protect the identity he had spent decades building. He chose the latter, and the silence began. Studios wanted younger faces, new styles, characters who were flashier and louder. But Kurt was still Kurt, a man of few words, with eyes holding things no script could fully express. Hollywood no longer knew where to place him, and he refused to squeeze himself into hollow molds just to stay visible. Behind that absence was a quiet collapse. No one saw it, but Kurt felt it clearly. He once said his greatest disappointment wasn't losing big roles. It was the feeling that he no longer fit the times. That was the confession of a man who had lived his whole life between two worlds: the world of truth and the world of the spotlight. As opportunities grew scarce, he stepped back, not bitter, just accepting. He spent more time with Goldie's family, taking the kids hunting, fishing, living quietly like someone who had never belonged to Hollywood at all. This wasn't giving up. This was saving his own soul from a machine he knew would cost him everything if he let it pull him in too deep. From the outside, it looked like a pause. But for Kurt Russell, it was the real storm. A sense of being lost, of doubt, of fear that the world would forget him. Yet in that darkness, something unexpected was forming. Something that would open the door for Kurt to return stronger than ever. When the whirlwind of Hollywood finally slipped out of his grasp, what remained in Kurt Russell wasn't regret. It was an empty space. Not loud, not dramatic. Just the quiet of a man who had grown used to the relentless motion of film sets. The years away from the spotlight placed him in a position very few actors ever dare to face, looking directly at the wounds he had spent years hiding. Kurt began to recognize something youth had once allowed him to avoid. The unfinished dream of baseball was still a cut that had never truly healed. For years, he believed filmmaking had filled that void, but when life slowed down, the memory of a future that once felt so close resurfaced. The loss no longer hurt violently. It hurt in a deeply human way, a quiet sorrow that couldn't be explained. And yet, in that moment, family became his salvation. Goldie Hawn, with her trademark strength and humor, didn't try to pull Kurt back or force him forward. She let him rediscover himself in his own time. They spent their days together as two souls who had collided with life too many times, now content with slow forest walks, quiet dinners, and soft conversations that had nothing to do with Hollywood. And in that calm, Kurt Russell healed, bit by bit. He devoted more time to his children, especially Wyatt Russell, who later followed the path of acting. Kurt realized that seeing his son find joy in the craft felt like a door opening. The past could not be changed, but love could build a different, better future. As his career settled into silence, Kurt rediscovered the simple things he had long neglected. He went hunting, fishing, spent hours repairing things around the house. Small acts that brought no fame, but helped him feel whole again. Not a star, not a symbol, just himself. And then, when his heart was steady, when the scars had softened enough not to sting each time he remembered, Kurt Russell understood something. The silence had never been an ending. It was preparation for a new chapter, one where he would return to Hollywood not to prove his worth, but to continue his artistic life in a gentler, freer way. When the wounds inside him had finally softened, Kurt Russell didn't return to Hollywood with a loud explosion. He returned with calm. The calm of a man who understood life, understood himself, and understood that not every spotlight is worth chasing. And strangely, it was that very quietness that made Hollywood look his way again. His comeback didn't arrive through major studios, but through directors who still believed in old values, the value of an actor whose depth mattered more than his fame. Quentin Tarantino was one of them. With The Hateful Eight, Kurt Russell didn't just reappear. He proved that time had not dulled the artist within him. If anything, it made him sharper, more seasoned, more captivating, in a way that felt deeply masculine, deeply grounded. Then came Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. As Ego, a character who was half father, half villain, Kurt Russell brought something few actors could deliver: the irresistible charm of a man you desperately want to trust, yet can never fully trust. That wasn't just acting. That was a lifetime of experience flowing into a single role. Hollywood finally realized Kurt Russell was never outdated. He had simply gone silent at the right time. He continued appearing in the Fast and Furious franchise and other modern action films, not to reclaim old heroism, but to embody something different. A stabilizing force, a character carrying wisdom, experience, and the authority of someone who has traveled farther and seen more. The important thing was this: Kurt didn't return to prove anything. He returned because he wanted to. He wanted to keep telling stories. He wanted to keep transforming. He wanted to live once more under the lights. But this time, not the lights of youth, the lights of clarity. His rebirth wasn't loud, but it made Hollywood nod in recognition. Some lights only shine their brightest after a person has walked through darkness long enough. As the noise of film sets faded, as interviews and press events stopped being a compulsory part of life, Kurtrussell began to look back on his journey with a very different gaze. The gaze of a man who no longer needed to prove anything to the world. In a rare conversation, he once said that what troubled him the most wasn't the roles he missed or the films that failed. What haunted him was the feeling that for many years he had lived too much for the work and too little for himself. "I used to think I was strong just because I stayed quiet," he said. "But too much silence can make you lose yourself." There are days when Kurt remembers his youth, those early mornings running across the baseball field with legs full of hope. He wonders how life might have unfolded if the injury had never happened. But then he smiles, because he knows some detours aren't losses at all. They're destiny leading you exactly where you belong. Without that fall, Hollywood may never have had the Kurt Russell it knows today. Looking back, he doesn't deny he had years of drifting, moments of doubt, choices that pushed him into long stretches of quiet. But he also understands that all of it was a prelude, the necessary steps for him to learn how to cherish the one thing that mattered most, the truth inside his own heart. He says that if he regrets anything, it's the days he allowed the fear of no longer fitting in to make him shrink himself. But even so, that silence taught him that real worth doesn't come from lights or applause. It comes from whether we can hold on to the core of who we are. Kurt Russell enters his later years not with exhaustion, but with the calm of a man who has seen both the light and the dark of life clearly. He doesn't search for greatness, he searches for truth. And sometimes it is exactly that simple truth that makes a person unforgettable. When night falls over the mountain ranges where Kurt Russell now spends much of his quiet life, you can almost picture him sitting on the porch of his wooden cabin, listening to the wind brushing through the old pine trees. No more set lights, no more shouts of action. Only Kurt, a man who has spent more than 6 decades in front of cameras, yet somehow managed to keep the silence within his soul intact. His life was never a straight path. It was a winding journey, from a Disney boy to an action icon, from a baseball dream cut short to a man who found his identity through art, from radiant peaks to long, quiet years in the shadow of forgetfulness. But what makes Kurt Russell truly different isn't the legendary roles. It's the way he always chose to live honestly, to protect the human and the quiet parts of himself in a world far too loud. And when we look back on that journey, we realize something. Greatness doesn't come only from standing center stage. Sometimes it comes from the courage to step back so you don't lose yourself. Kurt Russell did exactly that, and perhaps that's why he remains in the hearts of film lovers after so many years. If this story touched you, please leave a comment. Which Kurt Russell role stayed with you the longest? What part of his journey made you pause and reflect? Share your thoughts, because it is those memories that keep characters like these and stories like this alive. And please like and subscribe so you can join us in the next videos, the deeply human journeys of the remarkable souls of film and music. Thank you, and see you in the next story in